Okay, then let's start the February 8th, 2021 Borough Council meeting. Welcome, everybody. Doreen, if you wouldn't mind calling the roll then, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Here.
will you be recording the meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we will not be, no.
You're not recording the meeting. Okay, gotcha. Pete Merkel,
I'm here.
will you be recording the meeting?
No.
Jim Meals,
Jimmy has not signed on yet from my records here.
okay. Mark Watkins,
Yep, I'm here and I'm not recording.
okay. Ralph Touch,
I'm here and I'm not recording. Thank you.
Colin Boyer,
I'm here.
will you be recording the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. John Rothenberger,
I am here and not recording.
Steve Stensky,
I'm here, not recording.
Mayor Gore,
I am here and I will not be recording.
okay, and in place of Andy Courtney,
I'm here.
will you be recording the meeting at all?
No.
Okay, thank you. Chris Young,
I'm here recording for borough purposes only.
okay. Craig Conrad,
I'm here and will not be recording.
let's see, Ryan Kern,
I'm here and I will not be recording.
Mike Eversole,
I'm here and I will not be recording.
Doug Rauch.
Here.
And
I'm
will
not
you be-
recording.
Okay, thank you. I believe that's everyone then. Oh, Denton, will you be recording at all?
No.
Okay,
Not
thank you.
Okay, then we're going to start then. We'll get started with Chief Stinsky's report first, please.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good to be here another month. A few things here. You see the reports were emailed out late this afternoon. A couple of highlights from the past month. We did assist Northern Berks with 3 active domestic disturbances in the Blandon area. And we assisted Kutztown Police Department with they were closing down a business that should have been closed down as a site of a recent shooting there in town. We responded to 20 burglar alarms in January, which seemed a little bit high for us. And we actually conducted 6 commercial vehicle inspections during January, and 4 of the 6 trucks inspected were placed out of service with major safety violations. As far as bigger incidents here in town of note, we did go to the high school for a report of somebody burning paper towels in the boys' restroom. We identified the male student, and he's also in possession of tobacco in school grounds. He was issued 2 non-traffic citations. One of our residents here in Fleetwood reported that one of their credit cards had been compromised in an unknown manner, and she was out to the tune of $2,500. Her bank refunded the money that was lost, and the bank is pursuing a fraud investigation on that. We did, during the month of January, there was a county broadcast put out to all police agencies regarding threats to law enforcement. A person made some threats they thought might have been anonymous, I guess, through a social media outlet to law enforcement. They were from where the threats appeared to originate from. State police initiated an investigation, actually identified the person responsible and charged them. And it's somebody who lives here in Fleetwood temporarily. That person's well known to us. We've had several mental health type encounters with that person. So that person's still definitely on our radar now. We did have a hit and run crash where a big SUV ran into the front window at Turkey Hill. As the officers were en route to the scene, they actually found a vehicle matching the description of what was used in the hit and run. Still some glass on the hood, etc. no signs of the vehicle being hot wired or having the lock popped or any of that kind of stuff. Spoke to the driver, who gave us physical attributes of a skinny white male who stole his truck allegedly. Of course, the owner still had the keys in his pocket, and his physical appearance was much different than what he described as a vehicle thief. And during questioning with police, he broke down and told us the vehicle being stolen was a lie, and that he's the one who committed the hit and run. One of the things, there are a lot of activity around town here last week. There was on the 16th of January, there was a theft in Boyer's Market of a cart full of Red Bull energy drinks. We had a couple of leads and we were working that. And then we ended up connecting with Northern Berks Regional Police, who had a similar crime at the Redners in their area. And just as we started collaborating, there was another attempt at theft at the Redners in Leesport. And then moments later, we got a call for a retail theft, another one at Boyer's. So the problem was that, we tend to get those calls an hour or so after the theft was committed. But we ended up tracking it down to a resident who lived within a block of Fleetwood Borough Hall. And we retrieved some evidence from the theft that day. But altogether, we have 2 adult males and a juvenile female who stole. Right now, the tally's at about $1,000 of energy drink from places around Berks County. They steal the energy drink, or they actually use their welfare benefits card to buy the energy drink, and then they go and they sell it to the bodegas in Reading for $10 a case, and then they use that money to go buy drugs. So that case is coming together nicely thanks to the cooperation of everybody involved. Personnel-wise, I did email a letter with the police report to the Borough Council. Officer Maria Ruiz is completing her probationary training. She'll be completed with that on March 1st, and she started March 2nd of last year. So I'd ask, in conjunction with the Civil Service Commission guidelines, it's the month before she fulfills her probationary assignment. I'd ask council to consider promoting her from probationary officer to full officer status, and effective March 2nd, which will be the completion of her probationary period. Maria has been a great asset to us for being a young officer right at the academy. She did bring some experience from the Youth Detention Center and the INS Center, and you could tell that she's a very intelligent officer. She's learning quickly, and she's also very active in helping support the many things that we do in the community to build community relations. So I highly recommend that you guys move to remove her probationary status effective March 2nd.
Suzanne, could we interrupt here and have a motion to move Officer Maria Ruiz from probationary to full-time officer?
Yes, of course. I was just going to do that. So if we could have that motion, please.
Suzanne, this is.
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead.
I have a motion by Mr. Boyer. Do I have a second, please?
John will second that. Effective
John.
March the 2nd, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
So we have a motion and a second by Mr. Boyer and Mr. Rothenberger. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, let's call the roll then and do the voting, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer,
Yes.
John Rothenberger.
Yes.
And that's everyone.
That motion carries then.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Keep going on with the personnel section of my report. An old new officer started patrolling with us. He started his FTO program. It's Officer Stephen Beckesy. He's a very experienced officer, comes to us from Federal Protective Service, and he worked as a part-time officer up in Schuylkill County. We're a little bit closer to home, so we're grateful to have him start training with us so he can start filling some shifts for us. I've also today forwarded a packet for hiring and a intent to hire letter to a retired trooper that I've worked with in the past on a variety of task forces, who's interested in becoming our part-time detective or criminal investigator, however you want to call it, that we have allocated for in the budget this year. So I'm excited to kind of get him in the loop and get him moving. I also have another officer who whose status is tenuous right now with his current employer, who may be coming along to help fulfill that role for us as well. So that is good news for us. We definitely need to help. Personnel-wise, the other thing, our annual mandatory in-service training actually started today. Sergeant Allshafer is there today and tomorrow. And over the next couple of months, we will all be going over to the police academy for that training. And last Thursday night, we all accomplished our every 2 years, our first aid and CPR refresher. So we are in good shape. We're trained up and we're ready to go. Equipment-wise, our 2017 Explorer had to go in to get a water pump replaced that was previously replaced. That was a warranty item, so that didn't cost us anything. Our 2014 Ram is currently down at RMI for troubleshooting some radio wiring issues. And we did get a hard install date for the MVR in the Tahoe. That's scheduled for Thursday of this month. Projected activities or issues that are going on here. That newly activated traffic signal is the subject of much discussion on social media. Just when we thought we had it working, we started getting reports of some extremely long delays. After talking to the PennDOT contacts and telco, what it appears that has happened is, because there are some people are saying 10 to 15 to 20 minutes they were waiting at the red light. And when one car would get brave and go, the light would immediately change. And what everybody seems to think happened is during those last windstorms we had, the camera, that's the sensor for traffic there, got knocked out of whack by the high winds. So that was a high priority for telco to replace as soon as it could get moving around with the storms that we had. I'm not sure where we are. I'll have to follow up. I don't know if you guys heard anything, but I did request that the supervisor contact me as soon as he made his way out there. I haven't got anything back from him yet.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I'll attest to that there was a problem because I saw that happen directly in front of me. We only had maybe 2 cars pull through the green light at the tracks, and it turned red right after that. And there was, and the reason I remember, like timing wise, it was at least 4 to 5 minutes because I was sitting there waiting to go. We had a fire call, and I'm sitting there waiting, and I sat through the second dispatch, and a couple more minutes went by after that as I started watching the clock. So it was at least 4 or 5 minutes.
When it's working properly, unless there's a train coming, the longest you should be waiting there for that light is no more than 80 seconds. So when it was
and I've timed it in the past about that.
Yeah, when we were in the past, I was about 2 seconds off from that time period, and then like I said, we had the storms, and we start getting the calls of it being longer. So there's a programming and maybe an aiming issue, but that is there on their.
Steve, this is Craig. If I could just interject for a minute here. In my report, I spoke with Telco this morning, and I gave them a call just to see where we were on that. And they told me they were out just the other day. Again, I didn't get a call when they were out either, but they replaced some kind of a control card in the cabinet, which malfunctioned. They put a temporary card in there right now for it to function, and they ordered a new one for us. So it should be functioning, and it seems to be functioning the way it should right now.
Yeah, and I would, and Craig's on there too. If we get some input from council, what I was going to suggest, if the weather didn't break and they didn't get out there, if we have these, I know people are just starting to get used to it, and I hate to sort of take a step back to go forward, but if we have this problem that's not fixed, and we're still getting these extended 10, 15, 20-minute delays et cetera. I would suggest us going and turning the signal off until it could be repaired. I wouldn't want to do that without touching base with you guys, but it might be something to consider if it stops working properly again.
This is John again. The incident I was referring to happened several days ago, I think before the bigger storm.
Yeah, do you know when they were there? When were they there, Craig, to change that card out?
I believe they were there either Thursday or Friday of last week. Again, they didn't call me and tell me. I called them this morning, and they said they were out late last week. So I'm not exactly sure which day.
And the I think it was last night or the night before I went through. It was like 30 seconds. It wasn't long at all. It was a great light change as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
One other thing I'd like to raise about the light is the one at Richmond Street. When you're heading north on Richmond, the green lights especially, but I think even the yellow and the amber and the red lights, I know they pointed them down so you couldn't see them from up at the tracks. But if I'm driving in my pickup truck and it's not a lifted truck, I have to be over the white line to see that those lights are actually green.
John, I agree with you. I had the same situation last night. Really, I could not tell if the light was green, yellow, or red. You couldn't see it until you were.
If it's evening time or nighttime, you can kind of see the reflection. Mm-hmm. But when it's daylight, you can't see that that's green or amber until you are past the white line and almost under the light.
I second that, John.
I'll third it. They replaced
So how
those.
quickly can we get that taken care of, Craig?
I'll have to give them a call. They actually put some kind of distance limiting tape on there to kind of and adjusted them. I can give them a call tomorrow morning and see.
Yeah, if I'm in the car, it's not bad. Like you're behind the white line if I'm in the car, but just sitting up a little bit in the pickup truck, you're past the white line to see them.
Well, I have the SUV and I can't see it until I'm almost under it.
Okay, I'll give them a call first thing.
Yeah, Craig, and just remind them that that's kind of critical. We have an awful lot of people operating vehicles that sit a little high, so we don't want to have someone nosing into traffic, heaven forbid. Okay, is that, Chief, are you good?
Sorry,
yeah,
Steve.
I'm good.
Okay, then can we move on to then, does anybody have any questions
for anybody? For me?
I don't think so, Chief. And if we do have any, we'll get them to you. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just reach out to me and I'll log back on. I'm going to jump off and prep for the Topton meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Chief. Thank you. We're moving on to, and we're moving on to, yeah.
Suzanne, before you start, another housekeeping. We had Jimmy Meals join us.
Okay.
And Doreen.
Welcome, Jim.
All right. So Jimmy, just as far as roll call, that you're here, and will you be recording this meeting?
No, I won't be recording the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Jimmy.
Okay, moving on. We're going to speak to Ryan Kern from BIA.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Or maybe Mike Ebersol about pool bids. I'm not sure if Ryan's on. Oh, hello, Ryan.
Hi. Yeah, I'm going to start off. I'm going to hold off on my engineer's report, and I'm going to let Mike handle the pool bids. So go ahead, Mike.
All right. How's everyone doing tonight? So we did receive bids on the 2nd. We received 2 bids. The first was from Premier Pool Renovations, who also bid previously last year. And then the second was from Allstate Technology. Premier was once again the low bidder at $135,000, their base bid, and that included $18,000 in allowances for various repairs if needed. If they're not used, they would be credited back to the borough. And it also included 4 alternates. The first deduct alternate was to go with a lesser plaster product. And then the other 3 were for additional repairs for like tile replacement and some painting for the new diving areas. So I believe you all have this summary sheet at this point and the bids that were received. And unless, I think really the big discussion item is going to be the alternates and which ones to accept and which ones not to accept.
Does the, do you want to go over, can you go forward and go over the different pool opportunities? That the three other options that we have besides the plastic?
Okay. So the second add alternate was for the nosing tile on the stairs at the corner of the pool. The add alternate number 3 was for the target, racing lane, and depth change indicator tile replacement, which based on our discussions, it's actually in pretty good shape. The stair nosing tile, the add alternate number 2, I believe we're kind of in agreement, at least Craig and I and Chris and Bobby, that would be a good one to accept and perform those repairs. And then the last one was just to paint the no diving striping along the perimeter of the pool. And do you guys need me to read off those values, or do you have those in front of you currently?
We've got them attached to the reports that we've received.
They were sent out, yeah.
Is there any warranty associated with both bids?
So typically there's a 1-year workmanship warranty, but the only real warranty that you'd have would be the plaster, which is the base bid plaster that we went with. I believe that was a 5-year warranty, but I have to check our specs. The Marsite plaster, which is more of like a field mixed plaster, doesn't come. It would really just be covered under that 1-year workmanship warranty.
Okay.
Craig, are we able to do any of that ourselves?
Unfortunately, no, we cannot do any of it.
Including add alternate 4, which was the perimeter, no diving, warning line. And
yeah, the old line needs to be removed, so it has to be milled off or sanded off, and the lettering, we don't have that stuff. We wouldn't have the equipment to do it properly.
So
then go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Michael, I think what I heard you say was that add alternate 1, we would probably not want to go that route. Add 2.
Yeah, add alternate's really a deduct. We went with a better product for the base bid for the plaster.
Okay.
If you go with add alternate 1, you're going lesser products. You're gonna credit back to you if you do accept that, which was $12,000. But again, you have the $18,000 in allowances built in that you may or may not end up using completely.
And then add alternate 2, we would accept that one, and 3 we would put off for now. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I think add alternate 2 would be a good one to accept. Number 3, again, based on at least what I've seen, unless anything happens during demolition, we really start seeing any popping with the existing tile in those areas. I think it's probably okay to remain as is.
Mike, this is Craig. I feel there might be some minor repairs till they get done feathering in and stuff. There might be 1 or 2 loose tiles along the edges, some minor repairs, but I'm gonna just guess.
We could use the allowances to cover those items too if needed.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it'll be anywhere close to the alternate number to do those repairs.
I agree.
So how is the pool, has the pool committee or the committee charged with reviewing the pool budget and needs, what's their thought on this, on the bids we've received?
So this is John again. I'm just, my concern is that we would not want to put this off any longer, that we would want to go through with this. I think we had planned to do this past year, and because of the COVID situation, it didn't occur. But I don't think it's a good idea to put it off any longer. We budgeted for it, and I think we're in a good shape to do that. And I'll let Mark and or Ralph weigh in if they have any additional information.
I agree with John, 100%.
I agree as well. That's what we talked about.
I think if we don't do these repairs at this point, we might have some more significant damage to the pool that's going to cost us more in the long run.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And by moving forward, we're really making a commitment to continuing offering a community pool to our residents and surrounding neighbors. And I think that's something we've been stressing that we wanted to continue to do.
Agreed. So based on that, I'll make the motion to accept the bid.
And that's the premier. That's the
If
premier
I can
pool renovation.
interject,
Go ahead.
it would be the bid for the base bid plus add alternate 2 and
2
add
and
alternate 4.
Correct.
So that's a total for the record. That's 145,450 if I added correctly.
I got as well.
So I have a motion by Mr. Touch. Do I have a second?
Mark, seconds.
I have a second by Mr. Watkins. Do I have any further discussion at this time?
I do have some discussion about this. This is Colin. Based on the fact that further on in the agenda, there's going to be some significant discussions with regard to the park. I think our focus should be at the park and not on the pool. In my opinion, there's absolutely no reason or no way that the pool can open this year. Therefore, we're going to have another second year that the pool is closed. Quite frankly, I don't think we should have a pool at all based on the amount of repairs and the amount of future repairs. I think we should be focusing our effort on the park itself. The fact that we had to raise taxes this year when almost all of the other municipalities in Berks County did not raise taxes, and the fact that we have to borrow $3.5 million on the street, and the fact that we have some significant repair bills upcoming for the park, I don't think we should be in the position to be spending this much money on the pool. Thank you.
Surely. Any further discussion? Okay, then let's go to the vote, please. Doreen, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jimmy Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer,
No.
and John Rothenberger.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries then.
BIA.
Okay, so then we're moving on to, Ryan, we're going back to the BIA report.
Okay, sounds good. All right, the first item on our report, as usual, is the annual MS4 and pollution reduction plan items. We did take a look at the status of Borough completed MS4 tasks for the 2021 permit year, and we did provide a summary to the Borough last week. Moving on to the Willow Creek Restoration Project, there was a meeting held at the Borough Hall in the cafeteria on January 20th, basically to discuss changes to the design and the layout since the last committee meeting. The committee members did review the 3 phases of the project and the initial cost estimate, and after some discussions and such, have decided to move forward with phases 1 and 2, but eliminate what was considered to be phase 3, which was a bioretention, basically a bioretention garden. And we just found that it was the least cost effective and didn't provide the bang for the buck to remove pollutants. We will follow up with DEP to review the comments and start preparation of the grant report narrative. And Mary Himmelberger from my office will be coordinating with the borough just to figure out the next rounds of Growing Greener grants as well. We anticipate that to be this spring, the next Growing Greener grant opening.
Brian, can I?
Yes.
Mary did an excellent job at the meeting. And to tie in the park committee, that meeting just happened last week. We agreed that we're going to have a park team meeting with her to bring everybody up to speed since they weren't able to attend that meeting. So just FYI to the council.
Yep, sounds good. And Chris, I did speak to Mary about that today, and she would like me to attend that meeting just to have an engineer present as well.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, the next item under MS4 is the Berks County MS4 Steering Committee. There was a virtual meeting held for their first quarter on January 21st. There's some detailed information in my engineer's report, as well as information that was provided to the borough. I won't go over each of those points right now, though. And then the other item within the MS4 is the floodplain vegetation and management. Christine from my office has been working with Craig on what kind of educational signage would be appropriate for the borough. We are reviewing possible funding sources for that as well. So Christine will continue to coordinate with myself and Craig. Okay, the second item on my engineer's report is Arch Street. As I communicated previously, we did complete the topographic survey for West Arch Street down near the park. And right now we have one of our design engineers taking a look at all the drainage areas, flow patterns, pipe systems, and the conditions of all the pipes. And I'll be looking forward to his review and recommendations for what we can do in that area. So we'll continue to coordinate with Chris Young and Craig on that project as well. And other than the pool bid, I don't have any other items on my engineer's report. So if anybody has any questions or comments, now would be a good time.
Ryan, I used the wrong name. It's Christine I was talking to get the, I also talked to Mary today. There's too many people I'm talking to. Christine and the park committee will get together to discuss the MS4 projects. And then, right, Mary's thing is more related to later in the broadcast here. So,
right.
Okay.
The video contest and the rain barrel offering both sound kind of interesting. So maybe that's something that we could get the community involved in.
Chris, do we need Ryan to talk about either the park bridge or the band shell before he goes?
We can.
Well, it's up to you guys.
Ryan wasn't involved as much as you got the report from Craig. I'm not sure how much Ryan was briefed on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't overly involved with that, but I could stick around if council would like me to.
I could stick around too if you want. You let me know.
Were you involved, Michael, in either the park bridge or the band shell?
A little bit in terms of navigating how to get where to go from here. And I did some background research for similar types of band shells for other municipalities.
Okay. So, I mean, it's up to you, Suzanne, how you want to go, but.
I think maybe Mike, if he wouldn't mind staying on, and why don't we move that up if he would, then we can, while he's still available. Would that be all right with you, Chris? Can we do that,
Sure.
please?
Absolutely.
So can we talk about the park bridge and then the band shell status from there?
It's Pete. I have
actually,
a
I think
question.
we do it in reverse order, right?
Yep.
He did the band shell investigation.
It's Pete. I have a question for Ryan.
Yes, Pete.
Last time we talked about offensive exterior lighting, and your fellow that was here last time sent out a ordinance from another borough regarding that. We have a building on Vine Street that has just absolutely offensive outside lighting. And somebody said that we have some verbiage on the books that we could go after these people with. Can you check on that?
Yes,
You're talking about the elementary school, Pete?
Correct.
And I've been in contact with the school. They've, first of all, the woman who's running Touch the Future got grant money and went ahead and put those lights up without running it by the school board. So the school board wasn't happy with that either. So Greg Miller, the superintendent of schools, has been doing some testing with the lights. So they put up a couple that are more hooded or less glaring, if you will. And so now their plan is to replace all the lights on that building. Now,
Well,
I don't know what that means.
They're absolutely offensive.
They are offensive, and those poor people across the street feel like they have an 18-wheeler coming into their living room.
Correct. It's horrible.
Yes, and lovely young couple with a young family. But anyway.
So Tammy, before we would cite them, because when we cite somebody, it's going to be the school, not the tenant.
Right.
What is there a proposed time frame?
You know what? Let me get back to you on that. I happen to know somebody who's nearby. So
I thought you might.
Yeah. So I'll get that.
Well, we need to get this done. This is just, we talked about this before, at least twice. We need to do something.
Yeah, Pete, I can take a look into it as well. And I'll also talk to the guys from my office who represent the borough as the code officials, because there might be some guidance and verbiage within the UCC that does not allow an existing building to do something like this.
Somebody said there was.
In our code, Pete, I'm pretty sure it revolves around parking lots and not just on the side of a building. I think that's going to be the crux. But if the school is aware and can repair it in the next couple, like 30 days, then hopefully that goes away.
Okay, I have Bob here, and Bob, the question was, and maybe you don't know the answer, but could find out, is there a time frame when they're going to replace the lights or hood the lights on the Fleetwood Elementary building? Do you know?
I don't have the time frame. I thought that they had them. Now, from what I understand, the only lights that they were working on were the ones that were facing the playground of the, that would face onto North Richmond Street. I don't know that they're addressing anything else. So if Borough wants them to address something else, then I would suggest the Borough reach out to Dr. Miller. So the background on this is that the tenant for the Fleetwood Learning Center changed the lights actually without us knowing it. And part of it is because I guess there was some vandalism that was done in the parking in the playground or in the area. And so she got replacement lights, and she went and had an electrician do it, who said that they are within code. Although when Tammy and I noticed it, they were extremely bright. And so that's when we started talking with Dr. Miller about it. So he has been working with the tenant to revise those lights. And I think that they had some replacement lights where they were, I guess, directional, but I don't know that that has been implemented yet.
So all I can do is perhaps ask Bob to check at his next school board meeting and find out what the timing is on that and get back to you all. But in the meantime, I guess what you're saying is we really have nothing to cite them on. Is that correct?
Right. I think what we realized, Tammy, was our ordinance doesn't talk about residential lights, or I don't think it goes into detail about lumens and, expanse of light pools and so on. I think there's very specific language we have to use, and we'd have to get the ordinance in play. So we can do that concurrently with this, but I think we have to work with the school board to deal with the situation as well.
And they've been willing to work with us on a just a good neighbor basis. So if we're not happy with the way it looks, then Dr. Miller said he'd come up with some way of putting that. So let's get the time frame from Dr. Miller, and then determine if it's an improvement, and if it's not, we'll talk to him again. But in the meantime, yeah, we probably should update our verbiage on our ordinance.
And I thought that Andy's office was going to be making a proposal or something. I thought
Well,
at our last meeting, they were looking at some local or municipalities that had similar issues.
So we
And if
did
not,
get the
Courtney,
one,
can you do that?
Suzanne, this is Chris. We did get a recommendation from BIA. I'm not sure if we charged Andy's office with it. And this is part of the zoning ordinance upgrade. So this would be a significant endeavor. There's quite a few things in the zoning that are being looked at. So this is not going to be a short-term fix at all.
Right.
Okay.
Would you like me to send a letter to Dr. Miller indicating council's desire to look at all the lights?
I think that would be appropriate.
This is Pete. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, because we have to make sure that they're all, yes, all addressed.
I didn't mean to overstep my bounds.
You are not, sir. We appreciate your information and enthusiasm to assist us.
I will pen such letter.
Okay, and we have a school board meeting tomorrow night, so I'll bring it up to him also. That
would be great. Thank you.
We'll be addressing more than just the lights facing North Richmond, but
okay.
Thank you.
All right. As you were. Okay, moving on. Then we're going to go back to the band
He's making dinner
status.
for me, so, you know.
Oh, what a sweetie. All right, we're going to move back to the band shell status because we've got Mike still around. So if we could swap down to that, Chris, please.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, we also have Doug on the line who is also charging us. The band shell might be a little bit engaged. So if I may suggest we get Doug in and out.
Okay. Make it happen. Hi, Doug.
Hi, gang. As Chris mentioned, I am Doug Rauch with Georgia Settling. Over the years, I've assisted the borough with a number of projects and financings, and I was asked to assist with the Penvest project, Penvest loan. And although the loan is from a Pennsylvania agency, it's still a borrowing, and it's subject to the Local Government Unit Debt Act, and it needs to be approved by the Department of Community and Economic Development. And that's where I can help. I've been doing this kind of work for about 30 years. I'm on the board of the Pennsylvania Association of Bond Lawyers, board of directors. So I have a great deal of experience with this. As you may recall, municipalities such as the borough, whenever they borrow money, they need to do so by ordinance. Chris sitting around to use actually three things I'm going to discuss today. The ordinance, there is something called a reimbursement resolution. There's a one-page resolution, and that was part of your packets to be considered. And then Penvest wants a legal services agreement for us to provide. So there was a legal services agreement was also included in your package. But I'll start with the ordinance. I can go through this on a paragraph by paragraph basis, but a thumbnail sketch of the ordinance basically does four things. It approves the project, in this case, the water distribution system project. It accepts the proposal of Penvest, which is attached. It has certain covenants, including the Debt Act covenant, which the borough agrees to budget, appropriate, and pay the debt service as it comes due, and it pledges its full faith, credit, and taxing power of the borough as security for that. Penvest also wanted a pledge of the revenues from the system, so that's also contained in the ordinance. And lastly, it directs the appropriate officials of the borough to take all actions, to do all things, sign all documents that are necessary to get the closing. The mention of, the bids came in, and the project is at this point believed to be less than $2 million. Penvest, their proposal was $3.5 million, and we decided to go with the $3.5 million at least at authorized basis, because the Penvest loan is essentially a drawdown loan. You present to them invoices and they pay periodically, either to reimburse you or, pay directly. So you only have to repay what you actually borrow. The reason we wanted to go with the greater amount, however, is if for some reason some kind of disaster occurred and we borrowed just $1.7 million and say you need another $500,000 because some kind of something came up to cause the project to go over, you'd have to go through this process again. However, if this project does come in at $1.7 million, we simply at that point notify the Commonwealth that not the whole amount was not borrowed and that they need to redo their books, and the borough only pays back on 1.7. So it's really a matter of giving you the opportunity to, if need be, to access more money without any further expense, but you're only going to pay for what you borrow. The next steps, if in fact the borough enacts the ordinance, we make the necessary filings with the department. Pending the department's approval, there's Chris can attest, there's a rather lengthy checklist of things that need to be submitted to Penvest, including we will be delivering certain opinions and other closing documents. At this point, closing has been set for March 31st. So that's the ordinance. If you want, I can go through this page by page. Are there any questions at this point?
And I'll add, Doug, the Penvest meetings we've been having up to this point have been informative. And as soon as we mentioned that Doug is our counsel, they draw a sigh of relief because Doug is very, very well experienced with this. So I think we're in good hands. The other point is at 1.7 million, like he said, is what we opened the bids for, but that's just for the project. There are legal and engineering costs on top of it. So we're thinking it's going to be closer to 2.2 million, just for the record.
Yeah, but either way, you could always go down without any further action. But if you don't borrow enough, you have to go back and redo the whole 9 yards with the ordinance.
Oh yeah. I'm not disputing that at all. It's just to make sure people have the level set in their head. That's all.
And Doug, when we've had these other loans that we've worked through you for the borough, we've done the exact same thing. We've borrowed in excess of what was needed for that reason and been able to move forward with the project with no problems, and then just utilize what we did and had to pay back only what was taken, right?
That's correct. It's like Liberty Mutual Insurance. You only pay for what you borrow. The resolution that was included in your packet is simply it's a resolution that Penvest asked for because the source of Penvest monies, they go and they borrow on a tax-free basis. So there is a rather arcane concept under the federal tax regulations, which is what this resolution does. Is it declares the borough's official intent to repay itself if it uses general funds monies for any project costs to repay itself with Penvest monies, hence the reimbursement. So that also will need to be adopted by the council. And lastly, the legal services agreement. It's actually, the ordinance ratifies and confirms our appointment as bond counsel. So I don't know how you want to handle that. You can either, consider that separately if you want, or just rely on the ordinance to approve of the relationship.
Okay, and just in terms of logistics, is it appropriate then to pass or to ask for passage of the ordinance first and then the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, does anybody have any further questions for Doug or anybody? about the passage of the PennVest funding ordinance?
It's Pete, Doug. I think you don't need to go through anything paragraph by paragraph. You explained it well enough.
Okay.
And, you know, as I think everybody knows, the PennVest loan is for our water main project, and we worked with you before, so I'm comfortable with the whole thing.
Did we have another question besides Pete?
This is Colin.
Go ahead, Colin.
I don't know Attorney Roush at all, and as far as I know, he has a good reputation. However, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that his firm is under litigation from the Reading Area Water Authority, and I did look at the the civil complaint today about the allegations about the Reading Area Water Authority's litigation with regard to not Attorney Roush, but his firm, especially Mike Setley. And I did want to let everybody know that is ongoing, and the allegations in that complaint are very shocking. Again, there's no allegations with regard to Attorney Roush himself, but his partners in that firm. But I think everybody should read that complaint. I know it's just allegations right now; it's still pending, but it is very shocking. Before we go into this relationship, I think everybody should be informed.
Yeah, I have nothing to hide here. You know, I will say this. I mean, I can't really comment too much about the suit, but it's a very politically motivated situation, and in some respects, the complaint is so shocking, it's almost unbelievable that this could have, these kind of actions could have ever occurred. But, you know, that's self-serving, I understand, but believe me, there's a very, very political background to this particular action.
Doug, would you be handling all of the management of this PennVest, you know, all the funding and all the paperwork and everything else?
Well, in connection with your, or in conjunction with your engineer and Chris, you know, there's a number of things that we have to provide to PennVest.
But it would be under your oversight, right?
Generally, that's correct. You know, we work with the people at, you know, the legal group at PennVest. There is a lot of, you know, there's a lot of paperwork, and it can be a pain in the neck. But, you know, I'm looking at the term sheet, and the first 5 years of this loan are at 1.107% interest. And the next 15, it's 1.861% interest. It's almost, you can't beat it.
No, we understand. I just wanted to make sure that in terms of working with your firm, it would be under your guidance, which we've utilized before with no issues at all. We've had no irregularities or problems with any other financial endeavor we've undertaken with you, Doug, in all the years that I've been on council. Tammy, do you recall any issues or concerns?
Absolutely not a one.
Nobody else in my firm is going to be working on this particular engagement. It's just me.
Okay. Pete, and you've worked with Doug before, so you've worked with him closely on all the other projects that we've had, right?
Yeah, I have no issues with Doug, and as far as I know, you know, he's the only person in this area that's capable of doing this work. So I have no issue with Doug doing this job.
Okay. Any further?
I was just going to add that Andy and I both have a very strong, good approval of Doug. So.
Okay. Well, I think that goes from the years of we've worked with him and never had any concerns. So, okay. So then if we don't have any further discussion, then at this point, I would need a motion to pass the Penn Best funding ordinance so that we can go forward with the water project.
It's
And
Pete.
also
I'll make the
confirm,
motion.
and also confirm, as Doug said, his firm as the firm that we're using, but Doug's spearheading it.
It's Pete. I'll make the
Absolutely.
motion.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Mr. Merkel. Do I have a second, please?
This is Ralph. I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a second by Mr. Touch. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, then let's go to the roll, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yeah.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer,
No.
John Rothenberger,
Yes.
and that's everyone.
Okay, then that word.
If
Oh,
I
I'm
can
sorry.
ask a question, Suzanne, I'm sorry, this is Chris. Is that for
Sure.
all three documents, the legal services agreement,
I
the
think-
ordinance, and the resolution?
I think we have to pass them separately. Courtney, isn't that correct?
At least the resolution and the ordinance are separate. If you want to do the legal services agreement separately, you're welcome to, but that, as Doug referenced, it is included in the ordinance as well.
Right, so that portion, so we're going to do the resolution next, Chris. I think they have to be separate.
Gotcha. No problem. I was just confirming. Thank you.
So now can I have a motion to accept the resolution regarding the Penn Best funding?
John will make that.
Okay,
Motion.
so I've got that by John. Do I have a second, please?
This is Ralph. I'll second the motion.
Okay, so do we have any further discussion on this? Okay, then let's go to the vote then. Doreen, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer,
No.
John Rothenberger.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, then that motion to pass that resolution also passes at this time. Okay, does that complete what we need to do with you, Doug, at this point?
That does it. I appreciate your attention and allowing to take this at this time. But yes, at this point, I delivered to the borough just a set of some documents that need to be executed. But yeah, we're all good. I appreciate the time.
Okay, Doug, if you need anything else, you keep in touch with Chris, and then we'll take it from there, okay?
I'll be talking to Chris for very much over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. So thank you all.
All
And
right, thank you.
looking forward
Thank
to
you,
it.
Doug.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, moving on, then Chris, are we going to now going back to the beginning, going back to the opening the guest line?
Well, if you want, did you want to do the band shell?
Oh, we can do the band shell. I'm sorry. Yes, we've got Mike hanging in the background for the band shell status. So let's bring that forward, please.
Okay, so as everybody received, there was two things related to the band shell status in your packet, if you will. One was the Barry Isett from Greg Marks, which pretty much detailed how the band shell's current status is. And then my status on the PowerPoint, which I apologize if people found that too detailed, but it was one of the things I do to try to keep track of things. And I showed it to the Parks team, and they said it might be a good thing for all council to see. So in a nutshell, the current band shell, if you didn't catch up on all the paperwork, has been condemned by Barry Isett. I make it sound like it's their fault, but They came out, evaluated the band shell. There was rot, as shown in the pictures, and determined that it is unsafe. So there were some pictures associated with that to show exactly what was going on. And I'll pause there if there's any questions from anybody on the actual current status of the band shell.
So, I mean, I think you should all be aware that that band shell is 34, 35 years old. It was put in by the Lions Club and has seen a tremendous amount of usage over the years, but it is also prone to all the weather that comes its way as well. So, you know, we really thank the Lions Club, but to replace or fix that band shell at this point in time would be is a monumental undertaking. So I just wanted to make sure you realize that we have had it for 34 years, and it was thanks to the Lions.
So then immediately after that, it's been a whirlwind week or two for all involved. But as soon as it was deemed unsafe and was condemned, we started the frantic on what we're going to do next, just so we could get information to council tonight to make some decisions. There's obviously two options. You can repair the damage that's there or replace. The repair involves quite a bit of work and effort, was not recommended by both original manufacturer or the structural engineer that was out. And that's mainly due to the fact that it's laminate, wood, and glue. As you saw in his report, the laminate not only is part of the problem at the base, but it also is delaminating other places in the structure, not near as bad, but throwing repair money after it isn't necessarily a good idea. Then we started doing what a replacement strategy might be. And you can see by some of the pictures, you can do, if we would replace with the exact same structure, they actually are in business and they could do the exact same thing, it would be $500,000. Or you can just do a different type of amphitheater design. And then the other thing that the park team seemed to resonate to was if we're going to replace, do a stage and actually cover some seating, which has been talked about for as long as I was on council prior, and actually ever since I've been in the borough. That was one of the previous mayor's big ambitions as well. You saw there what some options are, and I'll pause there.
Do you want me to chime in here? I don't think we.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we want to, my suggestion, I've spent quite a bit of time with this and talking to Chris and composing long-winded letters, but I think we really need to take our time on this as far as what we want to replace it with, as much as to find out what is it that the people want to use it for. Like, why do we have this band shell? One of the great things about the band shell that is currently in place was that it had tremendous sound. For being an outdoor amphitheater, it really had a nice sound quality to it. So we don't want to jump into something that isn't going to provide what it is we want to use this facility for. Whether we repair what's there, which is not recommended, or we replace it, we're still looking at a significant amount of money. So, you know, we want to take some time. Now, with that said, we're coming up on a deadline if we want to apply for some grant money. So, you know, I think this goes in three different phases, and maybe I'm babbling a little bit, but A, we have to rip down what's there. We don't have a choice. It's condemned. It really cannot be repaired. And even if we did put the $500,000 in to repair it, it doesn't give us what we really want. We want to have covering over the seats, which we wanted, you know, since Chris said, you know, since the beginning of you know, all of us being on council. So I think we have to rip down what's there. So I think that's part one. Part two, I think we need to look at what we want to have there in its place, if we want to have anything. I do think it's used quite a bit and that it's worthy of some sort of replacement, but I don't know what that looks like right now. And three, we need to start looking at getting some grant money. So this is going to be a multi-phase project, in my opinion. It's going to take 2-3 years to complete. So I think we're looking at 3 different things here. Approval to rip it down, approval to go forward for some grant money through DCNR, and then 3, the actual build and what that build's going to look like, perhaps in phases. Do you think I have that pretty right, Ralph, Chris, John, or Mark up rather?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tammy.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
So there, I've said my piece. Anything else, Chris?
No, and I can go into some of the conversation. I was talking with Mary last week and then earlier today about some grant potentials and even loans. But going back a little bit, we have to start from the beginning. It's a very good place to start. We do have to demo the existing structure ASAP. No question about that. We don't have a cost estimate. We called several places, and literally the day after we called, we had a snowstorm, so no one can even get to the band shell yet to look for demo costs. So I'm still trying to get a cost for demo. I'm guessing $25,000, and maybe Ryan or Mike, you might have a little bit of intel on that.
Yeah, I would think you're probably in that range. I'd be surprised if it was too far off from that. So that sounds about right to me.
I'm hoping that's on the high side.
Yeah, I think so. The demo costs, especially when it's a wide open area, there's not really many obstacles that need to get around. I'd be surprised if it didn't come in around that number. And it'd be great if it was below the threshold, obviously. I don't know if you'd have to bid that out, but that's something else to keep in mind.
Yep.
Mike, could we keep the cement stage there until we figure out what we're going to do going forward, or is it best to just get rid of everything now?
No, I think the concrete platform is okay to stay. There was some cracking, but really the concern is with the columns of the glulam beams and those being completely rotted out at the base. You got some minor cracking and everything along the platform, but unless Mr. Marks told you it cannot stay, which that was not my understanding.
No, that's right.
Exactly.
It was strictly a collapse hazard from the roof, not
exactly.
So we can still use that stage until and modify it however we need to, in the meantime, until we come up with a replacement and can afford a replacement.
Correct.
Okay.
This is Denton. If I can make a few comments or observations for you.
Sure, Denton, go ahead.
That band shell, Tammy's correct, was a Lions Club project. It was fronted at that time by former mayor. He wasn't in office at that time, but they had their plan. They brought it forward. They were short at least 5 digits worth of money for that project. The borough supplemented the final necessary dollars for that. But prior to that band shell, Pete, I want to call on you to just think in your head there a little bit. That was just a built up dirt mound, leveled off. The background of it was arborvitae. And that was our entertainment at the time. We had outdoor movies in the park in the 60s. So I'm truly saddened to hear that the structure is whatever condition it's in and has to be removed. But just some background on a long-term background, probably 60 years in my mind. Pete, I don't know if you remember that being the arborvitae in Grassy or not.
You're really taxing my brain on that one. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was absolutely shocked when Chris said that thing had to come down. I just could not believe it.
well, I'm surprised too, but things are what they are, and you can't change that. But I hope that the current council will consider doing something more than just demolition there. I don't know what that does to your electrical arrangements down there, because I remember that when we would have events in the park, we would always be knocking out circuit breakers, and so we enhanced the electrical system around the park. And I guess you've done it since then also for the greater activities that go on down there. But
that brings up an excellent point.
What I'd like to see is us to keep the cement stage and put some sort of box around the electrical equipment so that we can use it until we have what we're going to replace it with, or if we get the money to replace it.
We're looking at if council wants to do something, we're looking at, we already had an electrician down there, and if we would get an 8x8 shed, we could put everything in and on the shed to continue electrical operation with very little effort.
Good. That's good.
It's sent again, because you're going to have some summer activities there, most likely. If not this year, certainly 22. And you're going to need that electrical capacity for some of the little trailers and stuff that get set up.
That brings up another point.
The other thing we looked at was if everybody sees on their PowerPoint a temporary tent that's also available that would cover the bands that would be on there.
But Denton brings up a good point. Even if we don't have activities there this summer, we do have our 150th coming up in 2023. We may not have a band shell by 2023. I don't think it's a deal breaker. It's not going to ruin the celebration. As long as we have some sort of stage and we have electric capacity, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but just keep that in mind. It will, we just rely on that band shell for so much. It may not be there for the 150th.
Well, that's it again. I'm going to mute myself here, but I do want council to be aware that you do have 5 figures of some amount invested in that band shell. It wasn't strictly Lions Club. They did their thing, and they ran out of money, and it was a good idea, and we pumped it in with them.
Yep.
Well, and actually, Tammy, we've been talking about in recent years how that area is not really utilized as well as it could be, because we know when people even come to concerts, they sit under the trees because there's no shade.
Right.
So I think this gives us an opportunity, kind of forces our hand to do something that we've been talking about for some time. So
I agree. It is an opportunity.
So I think it's really, at the end of the day, I think it's a bad thing that's going to turn out to be a great thing, because whatever new plan we come up with, if we take into consideration all the issues we've had and address them in a new format, I think we're going to get even more use out of the park.
I agree with you.
That's why
I want us to take the proper time to really research how we want to use it and how best to meet those needs as best we can.
Yeah. So at this point, Chris, we don't even have an estimate of what it's going to cost. Is the plan that we're thinking about making a motion to allow you to move forward with that demolition because it has to come down as soon as possible?
Well, that would be the preference. The longer it stays up, the more dangerous it is. We are renting a fence to try to keep the perimeter clear. So if council is okay with a not to exceed 25,000, and if it does, then we would go back to the map. We could do something like that.
Right, and we may want to consider a little bit more than that, because you want to protect that electrical piece, so that may require contracting to some sort of box or building or something that deals with that.
Well, yeah, so then if you demolition and preservation, let's call it, might be in the $40,000 range.
Yep.
Right. So I
that's
think
putting in a shed that's already constructed that would cover the electric for now and then be relocated to use for another purpose another day.
Correct. The shed could be, and in fact, the Borough Works has been, the Public Works has been looking for a shed even for here for the community center to keep the salt and the snow blower and stuff like that in. So it would definitely be repurposed.
Right. And Tammy, the only other conversation that we were considering was whether there would be some temporary opportunity for just this summer. Right? Like
right. And then the third
fencing,
thing, to give to allow BIA to go forward with looking for some grant money for this.
yeah, perfect.
Okay, so then do we have then a motion to allow, assuming it does not go beyond $40,000 for the demolition and preservation of the electrical portion of the band shell?
At what point do we need to be out for a bid? What's the bid point now?
So it's 21,300. From this is a safety issue, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So it needs to come down right away.
Yeah.
We could probably get it as an emergency exception in that instance. If you want, I can get Andy's second opinion on that. But if it's a matter of safety.
Well, and Chris, the $40,000, part of it would be to purchase an already built shed, right? So there's no...
Correct.
Right, and so there's no labor for that. So that would be that cost would be outside of this.
Correct.
So part of the 40 is going to purchase a shed that doesn't count within the bid parameters. And are we going outside for the demolition, or are employees doing it?
No, outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our employees aren't able to do that, and you need some special equipment.
You would definitely want to have some insurance or something. Yeah.
Do you want to get estimates first, Chris?
Well, we are, but by allowing not to exceed numbers, once we get the estimates, I can still forward it to all council, but it gives us the ability of saving 4 weeks to keep it going here.
Understood. The only question, though, is if the amount of the bid exceeds the requirement to bid, then we have to get formal sign-off that that there's an emergency standard that was addressed, emergency need. If the total bid is under $26,000 just for the demolition part, then it doesn't matter either way.
It's 21,300.
Sorry, 21,300.
Yeah. I mean, if you're getting estimates very quickly, and when do you plan to start demolition?
Well, as soon as the estimates come in. So as soon as they can do it, we need to get it done.
As soon as the snow stops.
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be March, April, May.
Or Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing is if it's going to happen like pretty much immediately, I think we can just claim it's an emergency. Understandably, you don't want it up anymore. It's been condemned. But if your estimates aren't coming up and quickly and you're going to be able to move promptly, then we're starting to hit a point where it's no longer an emergency repair.
Yep.
It's now
the sooner
the better. Yeah.
And
bug people. Mm-hmm.
Chris, I sent you a direct message for a demo contract I've worked with out of Reading.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll keep this going on that note. And again, if council
got it. So Chris, if I may, maybe let me make a motion that we're going to spend up to $40,000 for demolition and preservation. And if the demolition portion of the bill is high enough, you'll just double check with Andy before you follow through with the demolition portion
for the emergency
to make sure
status.
that we don't need.
Yep.
Right, to make sure we satisfy the emergency status.
Sounds good.
John will second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion?
I had a quick question. This is Colin. What budget line item will this come from?
There's no budget for this. It will have to come out of capital.
Could capital
Or savings. I mean,
I don't think it could come out of capital since it's not a.
Right, it's not a capital
Capital
expense.
budget.
It just has to
Right.
come out of
So-
savings.
Right, it would be out of savings.
Okay, if there's no further questions, oh, I'm
you.
sorry, Colin. You done?
No, I think that's all my questions.
No worries. Okay, then if we're done then with questions and discussion on this, let's go forward to the vote, please. Doreen, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yeah.
Colin Blair, John
Yes.
Rothenberger.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Okay, that motion carries then. So then, Chris, then we wrapped up the band shell.
Well,
for
almost, but not
Almost, go
really.
ahead. Okay.
So the next part then is, that's for the short-term strategy demo. Then there's the question if council wants to spend the 4,000 rental for a tent for the band shell. That could actually be postponed to future meetings until we figure out what's going to be happening.
Let's hold off on that, Chris. We have some time for that.
Agreed. Wait, I'm just going by what I sent out.
But
And
what I
then,
would like is for count, I think we would need a vote to have the authorization to ask BIA to start perusing for some grants through DCNR for the possibility of replacement.
right. So that's, if you look at the handouts I sent out, the cost options, there's two types of grants, DCNR and DCED. DCNR is a 50% match, DCD is a 15% match. But what BIA would need is council's approval to start applying for a grant with, again, the tentative design concept, and just say it's $500,000, that we would go out and ask for a grant for the project of $500,000, which means the council would dedicate X amount of dollars towards it, with the design as a tentative design, and the design could change over time as long as the price doesn't. Meaning, if you saw in the handout I gave, there was like a plane design, there was the amphitheater design. All of those could be part of it as long as we are still intent on covering the stage and the seating area. Does that make sense?
And this could take place over the next 3 years. These grants, the funding is good over 3 years. So we're not talking, it's not going to happen this summer. It may not even happen next summer, but over the next 3 years, we would have time to fully develop what the plan is going to be. But the reason for the rush to start working on the grant money is because that paperwork is due in March?
April 15th. And if we wait another council meeting, it's too late to apply for this year.
Right.
So it is
So
highly
that's why
recommended.
we're rushing on at least getting the authorization to go forward for a grant. We know that there's grant money available for this upcoming year. That is not guaranteed going forward. So we'd like to get our name in the running for grant money this year, knowing that there is money. And every year there's always the potential they're going to pull the plug on grant money. They haven't in recent years, but they could. So it'd be nice to at least get our name in there.
I don't disagree. Does anybody want to make that motion to authorize our engineers to start accessing potential funding resources for the replacement of the band shell?
This is Ralph. I'll make the motion.
This is Mark. I'll second it.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Mr. Touch and a second by Mr. Watkins. Any further discussion? Okay, then Doreen, if you wouldn't mind taking the roll, please.
Okay, Suzanne Touch,
Agreed, yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Blair, John Rothenberger.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Okay, then that motion carries as well. So
This
then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Ed, and before I mute myself, I just want to say my wife, the Jersey girl, Gigi, remembers the arborvitaes and the grass stage. So it's just personally sad for me, but it is what life is. And now I'm going to mute myself. Thanks for giving me the time.
No problem, Denton. We'll make it fabulous. Don't worry. We love our park, so we'll make it wonderful again. Don't worry. Okay. So then that motion then carries. So now we can move. Now, Chris, do we move back now to, can we release Mr. Eversole then?
I think so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mike before he goes?
Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
Thank you, Mike.
Have a
for
good evening,
everything.
guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Chris, do we have any other guests besides Denton?
No.
Okay. Then we can move on to Andy's office. Court, it's all yours.
Okay, so the first item is the COVID vaccine. As some of you referenced prior to the beginning of the meeting, you seem to be familiar with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's phased approach. And currently we're in phase 1A with many of the health providers, hospitals, etc., in the area who are vaccinating individuals with certain health conditions over the age of 65. And then they will also be vaccinating certain personnel in such as the first responders and corrections officers in the next phase, phase B, and then all local government workers would be eligible in phase 1C as well, as legal services. So some places are already vaccinating first responders and including corrections officers, so police departments, because they are first responders, and they can log in. One of the reasons why this is on here is because we recently did a presentation for CELG regarding employers' vaccination policies and the different options. And I wanted to go over that with you and talk about your options, because vaccination does reduce the risk that you might have your entire police department out, or even within, I understand you've had a little bit of staff already having COVID at the same time, and how that can affect operations of the borough. And it also can increase our timeline. It can make us more efficient to get to the herd immunity. So there are, you can, as an employer, require employees to be vaccinated through a mandated approach. With that, however, you of course have to comply with workplace civil rights laws such as the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title VII, and similar state laws. And so with that, if somebody has a medical condition where they're allergic to vaccine ingredients, a pretty common one was gelatin. Same thing with sincerely held religious beliefs. And there are certain ingredients, those have to be accommodated with, and so the employer would need to try to work with that. So most likely Chris is the person who would kind of be managing that, and they would need to be documented. So that is one option, and of trying to increase vaccination among your workforce. Another approach would be an encouragement approach, which we recommend to any municipal client or any client to look over what your work culture is, your employee culture is, and decide which approach might be best. With either of them, education is key. So for an encouragement approach, rather than mandating the vaccine, you would instead basically encourage it by providing education to the employees. And I have talked with Chris about who might be a good source for education for your employees. There is vaccine hesitancy, especially for the COVID-19 vaccine. And we're seeing with some employers that they're combating some of the misinformation by bringing in a immunologist that works with the CDC or is affiliated with university, or they will have a doctor Zoom into a employee meeting and actually provide education about the development of the vaccine, its risks, what the potential reaction is, so that they can do more of an encouragement platform. I would recommend that if you would even do a mandate to try to reduce the likelihood of having some sort of backlash. And then I would recommend that you try to document anybody who does get a vaccine so that you can comply with the CDC guidelines as they may be updated as we move forward with vaccination when it comes to an exposure of an employee who may have already completed their vaccination. How long do they need to quarantine? Do they need a quarantine? What contact tracing steps need to occur from there? Because over time that will get updated. The big incentive as a borough is you reduce the likelihood. Every time somebody gets vaccinated, you reduce the likelihood that they're going to have to take time off to be quarantined later. And right now there isn't the same requirements that there were back in 2020 to provide them with paid time off as their quarantine. Now it would come out of their sick days. And so that could very easily create tension among employees and the borough. So a vaccination would reduce that risk along with reducing exposure among your employees and even with the community. And so those are basically the pros and cons of each approach. A mandate can have a negative workplace culture impact, but you also might want to evaluate whether some other factors such as how interactive is that workforce with members of the public, and there's other factors that go in. We've seen some who have had a different approach for those who interact directly with the public, such as the police department, versus those who are right now maybe working remotely for the government offices and less likely to be interacting or contracting with the public. There is a risk. Well, there is cases where people have symptoms immediately after the vaccine, and that is part of what's supposed to happen. Is your body adapts and creates its own immune response to the protein, and so they may need time right after the vaccine to recover, and so that's also a good reason why you should ask your employees to inform their supervisor before they go to get vaccinated, so that you have staff available to cover the shifts the next day or so if they do have a fatigue or a fever and they need the day to recover. It does allow you to have a little bit more planning as a workforce. But again, that's part of the education that can come from a medical professional who can explain why that reaction is occurring, that it's normal, so that there is not the spread of misinformation. So you guys can talk about whether or not you'd like to do a mandate or an encouragement strategy, and I'm happy to help you with that. Or if you'd like to have any written policies, our office is happy to help you with that as well.
Chris, I mean, my thought would be, just from what I'm seeing out in the world and in other offices, that we wouldn't have a and certainly we can all discuss this, we wouldn't have a mandate policy, but an encouragement policy, and also provide education, information, and whatever assistance we need with our employees so that they can get what they need, get their vaccines if they need them, to get them, but not mandate them. But certainly we have protocols for when they're dealing with the public, so they're doing all their masking and gloving and all that, right? What are you seeing from the municipal side, or what other boroughs are doing?
We've seen a mix. Some are taking more of a mandate approach. Some are taking more of an encouragement. I think for a borough such as your size may prefer to do an encouragement approach. I think a big thing is to educate about the vaccine, but also how to get the vaccine. There is a bit of confusion still with each hospital or vaccination site going through the different phases at different times. I'll tell you, when you go on LVHN, you can actually say you're a government employee and say which municipality you're employed with or you're an elected official with, and that gets you on the list for when they get to that phase now. That's the same type of, you need to almost help people with that, signing up, understanding when to sign up, what's going to happen. But we're seeing more people, I think, with municipalities of your size and your workforce do an encouragement approach. But again, we've seen some that have done a mixed approach, depending on the workforce.
It's Pete. If you do a mandated approach and someone refuses, what happens?
So if it's a mandate, they can refuse based off of certain exemptions. So it could be because of a medical condition or a religious exemption. With that, then there would need to be some efforts to accommodate them, such as asking them to wear additional PPE, and they would need to provide documentation. You also should be cautious of if those who are subject to a vaccination are over the age of 40, but then those who aren't are not, because there could be age discrimination going on, which is unlikely. But it's primarily religious concerns that could come into play. If it's just a personal, I don't want to get vaccinated, then you as a borough council or maybe the personnel committee wants to discuss further what sort of discipline would result. Some have chosen not to even get close to termination, but rather say, okay, well then you can't interact with the public, or we're going to have to reduce your hours because of that, or things like that, if it's just a personal objection. With that, the borough should also be conscious of if somebody had COVID within the past 30 days, there still is guidance that they should talk to their doctor, or at one point it was the past 90 days, they should talk with their doctor about whether or not they should go get the vaccine. It may just be a matter of delaying it for another month or so, because they're finding that those who had COVID-19 more recently have a stronger immune reaction to the vaccine. So some, because of their health conditions, their doctor may advise that they wait an extra month after they've recovered from the virus. But yes, you can discipline them if they outright refuse, as long as they don't qualify for an exemption. But that is what sort of discipline would occur is up to the borough.
At my work and also on a lot of the jobs that we go on, everybody's temperature gets taken and recorded in the morning. Is that something the borough should be doing?
There are CDC guidelines that are recommended for employers. One of the tools that many employers, including our office, has taken has been to do temperature checks and to ask each employee every day, have you had any symptoms? Especially if you're suspecting that employees are not informing you when they're having symptoms. I don't know I'm not familiar with what your approach is, what your procedures are now, but that would need to continue until everybody is vaccinated.
Taking the temperatures,
or at least you reach herd immunity.
Taking temperatures is very, very simple. It takes very little time, and I think it works great.
Chris, is there a protocol set up for the employees in the morning for a check-in? Hey, Chris, are you there?
Sorry, I was on mute. The Public Works, I'll repeat the whole thing. The office does not, Public Works does not, and I'm pretty sure, is Steve still on? I'm pretty sure the police department does not have any type of temperature check. We advise all employees that if they're, like the CDC guidelines are, if you're feeling well, if you're feeling ill, if you have a temperature, do not come to work. But to document that would be a little bit of an issue every day. We'd have to check and check temperature on the way in, check temperature on the way out.
You don't have to do it on the way out, just on the way in.
Well, if they develop one while they're at work, you would want to know it so that people at work then know that they developed one in. And I'm no medical expert, but most of the time they had said by the time the fever comes, you already have had 3 days of exposure to everybody. So we can
Just
absolutely do that.
to give you a point of view where for my employer, and I'll let them remain nameless for now, is that we're screened coming into the plant once a day. Now, if you, depending where you go in the plant, if you go through the gate a couple times, you get screened every time you go through. But just to get into my office building, it's once and done, once every day.
I think
I'll just say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is Colin. I would just say that I think we should go with the direction that District Attorney Adams has chosen for his office and go to the educational aspect where all of our attorneys in the DA's office are in the 1B group, and we are currently eligible for the vaccine. We have been given information about how to sign up and how to get it, but it's not mandated, and he will never ask us if we got the vaccine. Although I would note that I've heard some people saying that even if you are eligible currently to get the vaccine, that you cannot sign up for it. In fact, the Reading Hospital, the Tower Health Unit, has suspended all signups for vaccines because they don't have enough. So I don't know if that's going to change in the near future, but even people that are eligible to get it cannot even sign up for an appointment. So I think we should not mandate it. We should just give them educational information. Once they're eligible to get the vaccine, you should give them the steps on how to sign up for it. And if they do so, that's on them, but we should never ask them if they did.
Well, I would agree with that to a point. And one of the things that I think we need to consider is Chris had informed me that we're giving, are we giving a 2-week extra paid leave in case someone gets COVID?
What we did is last year we followed the federal guidelines that said if we were required to do it. 2021, those guidelines have become optional. Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct, and we haven't received any information that it's going to be extended from last year or restarted. And it appears that if they do, they're probably going to only require it for private employers, not public. So if an employee contracts COVID-19, need to take off from work, at this point, it would come out of their sick days or their PTO.
At this point, that's the policy today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question then.
I'm gonna I think echo what Colin said, is that I think that's a good policy.
Yeah, it's Pete. I agree with Colin.
Do we have any concern that if and I'm just asking from an objective standpoint with our counsel on the line, do we have any concern that if we've got our employees out there interacting with the public, that they have a right to anticipate that those people who are interacting with them are, are not bringing the virus into their house or on the, you know what I mean? So what obligation does the borough have in that regard? In other words, should we be taking temperatures in the morning so that we can confirm, in fact, that at least they had no temperature, so there would be no outward sign that someone was ill? Is there any point to that, or is that something we should consider?
So,
if we're not going to mandate the vaccine?
So as always, you want to be taking reasonable care, even though there's sovereign immunity. And when it comes to COVID-19, the reasonable care is trying to follow with any CDC guidelines, which evolve quite frequently. And so if you're already having your employees wear PPE and take those precautions and report when they do have symptoms, and then taking the appropriate quarantine, to me, that's reasonable care.
Okay. Sounds like we would have to have a lot of staffing to be able to manage all the rest of it.
Well, even the temperature part, because we have so many part-timers coming and going, it would become a little bit, not unmanageable, but definitely cumbersome. And the point of recording, and you're also telling your employees you don't believe them, that if they're supposed to be doing it themselves at home, managing it, we're going to double check them. So I feel comfortable continuing if they're sick, stay home. If they have a fever, stay home. And it's a personal responsibility.
So why do we think we need to record that we took their temperature or they took their temperature?
Isn't that part of, actually, John, you're a great person to indicate if it's not recorded, it hasn't been done, right?
We don't do that here. It's not recorded. There's no evidence that I had it done.
Okay, so.
It is a requirement for me to do it in order to come into the building of the plant.
So this is Craig. Can I jump in here real quick in this conversation? We have gone to extremes of, the public works team no longer does our morning meetings. We don't gather in one place anymore. So in order to take temperatures, we have people reporting to 4 different places in order to stay in small groups of people and not gather. So it would become cumbersome to do that because no one's reporting to the same building right now as we used to. We're all reporting to our designated areas, the water treatment, the wastewater treatment, the public works building, or the office, depending whom we are. So it would become a little taxing to get it done. Like Chris said, not impossible, but it would be a little taxing to get that done on a daily basis. It would actually make us gather in one spot, which we're trying not to do and have been trying not to do. And I know with my team, if we do have to enter a property for a water meter issue or any other thing, when I make the phone calls to make those appointments, I not only ask the homeowner if they have any symptoms or if it's, any symptoms in their household. And I also will tell them that our employee as well, has not had symptoms, and we all wear the PPE and we ask to social distance, and, we're doing everything that we can possibly do, I feel.
So we don't even get out of our cars here. I mean, I go to a drive-through where somebody's sitting outside and just zaps you in the head with the infrared and you move on your way. I mean, like I said, we never even get out of our cars. So, if there's one person, if everybody drives past Borough Hall and somebody's standing out there goes zap, 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 and everybody goes to their normal place, you have a 5-second, 10-second interaction with the person.
It's even less than that time at the courthouse. Everybody who comes in, either employees or even the public, are taken every single day. If they fail, they can't come in. But it's not recorded in anywhere, in any place.
Okay.
So maybe if we can't come up with a single answer, maybe the option is a couple of the infrared thermoscans that we put at the locations we use, like the garage and the office, and leave it optional for the moment.
Well, or just say everybody has to take their temperature. Since we're not recording, we have no evidence that it's been done, right? So therefore, I agree with Ralph. You could just put a thermometer and say every morning everybody takes their own temperature. Boom, they're done.
I mean, so we leave it back with the safety of the people who are going every morning to work. And same answer is wearing a mask, right? Your safety provides the safety for the people you work with. So you respect them by taking your own temperature. Right, Craig, if there was a couple around at the different locations, there's only so many, right?
Right, if we had one in the office, say, and one at the water building, and then maybe at the maintenance building, would that be enough?
I'd say you probably need 4. What do you think, Chris?
Sure. I mean, they're not unreasonable price, so I'll just order some. We'll keep them around and require.
And do we need to get one for the police station as well?
Well, the police, office, and then most likely 2 or 3 for public works.
That sounds sort of reasonable, right? At least it's a today answer. Minimal expense, and you'd have the opportunity for now.
Do we know if Steve is doing anything with the police right now on his own?
They are encouraged to get their vaccinations, and I also forwarded to Public Works a webinar. I believe it's next week on Public Works employees and vaccinations. They're going to give them education as well as the how-tos. So that's the 2-phase approach here.
Yeah, licensed wastewater and water treatment operators are actually in phase 1B.
Okay, so is that my action? I'm buying thermometers for everybody. Is that what council's desires are? Well, not for everybody, but for each area.
For each location?
Do we have to have a motion for that?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Touch. Do we have a second, please? For the purchase of 4 or 5 scanning devices. Thank you, Colin. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, Doreen, if you wouldn't mind taking the roll, please.
Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer, and John Rothenberger.
Yep. Yes.
That's everyone.
And maybe, Chris, along the same lines of that, we could work with Andy's office to provide information to our employees about the newest information about where they can get, where they fall on the list, where they can sign up, whatever information is available, sort of have a clearinghouse of information for them.
Absolutely. But the original intent of this was, I just want to confirm, council's not mandating. Vaccinations are optional and at a personal preference of the employee. We will not ask, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Encouraged, I think, was the right word, right?
That's council's preference? Anybody have a concern with that?
As long as we're not giving the extra 2 weeks, unless it's mandated, I'm okay with it.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next item then. Do you, we did the Penn Best Putt ordinance already, about the codification update?
So, American Legal Publishing has comments that it sent to the borough, and we're about halfway through reviewing those comments, which were quite extensive. So we should have a more complete update next month.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else for Courtney at this point? Okay. Looks like we can move on then to the finance team. John and Jim?
So I think Chris sent out a copy of the budget or the capital budget as well as a expenses and revenue summary for through, Chris, I guess the date is through 12/31, through the end of the year, right?
Correct. The budget update was through 12/31, and the capital is proposed for 2021. And on there, you'll see I did put demo of band shell at 25 in capital, and they're right, it's not a capital expense, but it would still come out of the savings, which is where capital comes out of. So.
Okay. I think Jim can talk about the capital projects. Chris, is there anything we wanted to hit specifically about these? I mean, we're kind of right on where we expected to be. We ended up with the money in capital at the end of the year that we actually we're in a little bit better shape than we intended or expected from last year.
Correct. There's nothing much to add in looking at the time. If anybody has any budget type concerns on the year end, let me know. I'll be glad, or even now, go through anything. But the bottom line is last year we ended up in January 1st of 2020 and January 1st of 2021, our savings account is roughly the same, which shows we're in pretty good shape compared to many municipalities, and kudos to the team for managing the budget accordingly.
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
What stupid question? What does CC stand for? CIT wiring, CC carpet, CC roof.
Community center.
Is that a country club that you go to, or no?
It is. It is. It's actually the whiskey that I prefer. No, it's the community center.
Community.
It's a country club that Chris goes to every day.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Then can we move then on to the manager's report, Chris?
Well, actually, I think we need a approval of the capital budget so we can proceed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Can I get a motion to approve the capital budget as provided?
This is Mark. So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second, please?
This is Ralph. I'll second it.
Okay, do I have any further discussion? Okay, then Doreen, if you wouldn't mind.
Just,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just a clarification on that, and that is as forwarded minus the demo of the band shell, just a clarification.
Correct. And we already approved that separately anyway, so that we're fine.
I just want to make sure that that's not part of the that's not part of the motion.
So Doreen, could you call the roll then, please?
Okay. Suzanne Touch?
Yes.
Pete Merkel?
Yes.
Jim Meals?
Yes.
Mark Watkins?
Yes.
Ralph Touch?
Yes.
Colin Boyer? And John Rothenberger?
Yes.
And that's
Okay, then that carries. All right, Chris, now we can go on with the manager's report.
Okay, and I think we covered most of it. The budget update, John just covered nicely. The band shell status we covered earlier, so that lets the Park Bridge, which was in the capital plan. So in order to expedite, as we knew prior, last year's storm took out the bridge in August. We demoed it ourselves, got a few replacement costs. Our proposal is to replace the bridge, hopefully this year, before summer comes around, that it's actually used heavier. And in order to do that, I would like to propose that we have local architect Kleckner Laux kind of spearhead this in conjunction with BIA, who would do most of the, if not all of the civil engineering on it, and we can get moving on it. The bridge itself is under bid threshold, so that's a nice thing. All the rest of the work would be done by Public Works. Craig and I talked. He feels it's very capable from our Public Works department to install it, which saves us a bunch load of money. And I talked to Ryan earlier, and they're very comfortable with this proposal as well. So if you saw in the excuse me, the proposal was sent out. The bridge design concept is there. It's an all green bridge, meaning it's all recycled. The bridge would be at a higher elevation than the prior bridge to help minimize the damage. And they are looking at John Rothenberger's request to look at some type of debris, what I call it, debris block structure ahead of the bridge, so that future floods, if there's significant debris coming down, it would take out a first structure rather than a second structure. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Yeah,
Anybody
actually,
else?
sorry. The debris blocker, would that be something that that we'd have to pay another enormous DEP fee for?
Well, it would be part of the DEP fee. The cost, the 60 grand does not include that. We're looking at the feasibility of that. So if we can get that either as this project, incorporated with this project, or as a separate project, but get DEP approval, we would do that. But that's not a gating item.
Okay. I know the DEP fee was almost more than the bridge to begin with, wasn't it?
Well, it is. It's, like I said, the bridge is around 20,000. And you can see our estimate is 60. So the rest is engineering, DEP, civil engineering, because if there's a bog turtle in there, the project goes twice as long. So I'm totally serious, but we're pretty sure, based upon earlier assessments of the creek, because with Christine doing all her work, that there was an initial assessment that cleared it of bog. So unless one was transplanted there recently, we should be in good shape. So we have a relatively good feeling for this.
Okay.
So the motion, Suzanne, would be to engage Peter Lauk's services and start the process.
Okay. Any further questions?
So the bottom line, 60,000.
Well, right, that's the estimate at this point, right? We have to go out and get the actual quotes and start the process. But at this, we're not after tonight. We're not buying a bridge. We're starting the process. Council will still have the say on the approving it when it comes through. So I'm hoping by next March we have a formal proposal for you. But this is to get Peter involved.
This is just to start the process, and it won't have a number attached to it.
Correct.
Do we have anybody to make that motion so that we can engage?
Do we have a not to exceed number that we have in mind?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not even the budgetary
for his part of it.
The budgetary figure. Oh, for Pete, yes, his proposal was $6,000.
All right, I'd make that motion not to exceed 6,000.
Do I have a second?
This is Ralph. I'll second it.
Okay. So I've got a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion?
I just had some discussions about the price. If it's going to be $60,000 total and only $20,000 for the bridge, it seems like the engineering is really excessive. Why aren't we looking at other avenues for replacement, since we already have three bridges across the creek into the park? Why are we solely expecting the borough to pay for this, since the rec board has tens of thousands of dollars for years and years, and it doesn't seem like they're going to spend down that money anytime soon? And the FCCO is planning to spend over $100,000 for a celebration, mainly for a parade down Main Street. Why aren't we those organizations to replace this bridge? I don't think it's an emergency that we have to replace this bridge when we have three others already in place. That's just my comments.
Okay.
So one of the concerns I have, Colin, and this is John again, is that it's the only access from that part of town to get across from the borough into the into the park unless you go down to the park. So anybody who's coming from, say, Borough Hall is going to run into having to run several blocks more or run out to Main Street and come down through the park that direction. That's would be my biggest concern about not replacing that one. It's probably the most heavily traveled of the ones that are there.
Where are there 3 other bridges? I only count 2 other bridges.
The one on Park Road, that's the
You're
road.
counting the one on the street on Fleetwood, Blandon Road. Okay.
Right, and then one by the pond, and one right up from the pond, and one right at the street. But if there's no band shell, I'm not sure if that's going to be the most heavily traveled street. That's just my opinion.
Okay, well, we've got a motion and a second. And if we've completed discussion, let's go forward with the vote on that to allow the engineering team to go forward and get some information about the cost for replacement. Not to exceed $6,000, right? Is that what that's what the motion basis was?
Correct. Correct.
So,
The lab's architect is not to exceed $6,000 for their design and project management.
okay. So, Doreen, if you wouldn't mind on the roll on that, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer, John Laufenberger,
Yes.
and that's everyone.
Okay.
Suzanne, if I could add one, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
So just one other thing I wanted to mention is, Colin, you said about the potential for somebody else to pay for that. I have no problem with somebody else wanting to pay for the bridge or the engineering part of it. I don't see that as an issue standing in the way. I think this was just to get the ball rolling, to get us a plan in place to replace the one that's there and make it a functional and usable bridge.
Certainly can look into all those resources like we do for everything else. You know, we've gone to the Lions Club or to the Rotary or the FCCO or the rec board to see what the opportunities are to defray costs or to add to maybe a base amount.
I already,
Like
can
we
you
do
all
that.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh,
now?
yeah.
Okay. I was silenced there for a while. You know, I'm never quiet this long. So you knew
I
there was something wrong.
I thought you might have gone out and had your dinner. So there you go.
Well, he brought dinner to me. it was served to me. But anyway, I already went to the Rotary, just so you know. It's not their kind of project. They like projects that they can actually do the build, get their hands dirty. This is going to take footers. It takes some significant engineering. So, I've been putting feelers out to get somebody to help pay for it. And so far I'm hitting a dead end. So believe me, we're looking at those possibilities.
And likewise, Suzanne, I think you could refresh even though Karen wasn't able to make it tonight, the rec board does have a proposal for a significant improvement to the borough.
Right.
I don't want to take any steam away from that presentation, but there is a significant addition to the borough. The rec board is going to come. Actually, Karen was going to come tonight to talk about it, so we'll see if we can get her here on March's meeting.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. Okay, so moving on then, Chris. I think we are up to Planning Commission's Sprecher time extension.
Yeah, this is, so there, included in your packet was a letter dated January 29th from OTM LLC. It's more of a formality. They went to the Planning Commission on that extension or that Planning Commission subdivision. The Planning Commission came back and said, hey, we'd like some more information. In order to comply, they need an extension for the for the planning commission to continue considering it. After the planning commission is complete, it would come to Borough Council for approval. So all this is giving the applicant more time to continue to comply with the planning commission's requests.
Do we have to get a motion to allow for that extension?
I think it's a good idea. Courtney can.
Yeah. Do we have an amount of time, Chris, of what they're looking for?
90 days.
So can I have a motion then to allow for the Sprecher time extension for 90 days?
It's Pete. I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second, please?
It's Ralph. I'll second the motion.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Doreen, if you'd do the honors, please.
Okay, Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins, Mark's muted.
He says yes.
Why don't we come back to Mark?
I said yes. Sorry, I decided to stand up. My butt was hurting and I couldn't reach the mute button.
Oh boy.
Much information there, Mark.
TMI, TMI.
TMI.
On that note, we'll go to Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Alan Boyer, John Rauchenberger,
Yes.
and that's everyone.
Okay, that motion carries then. Okay, Chris, back to you. Autistic child sign request.
Everybody got an email earlier. I didn't realize I didn't include it in the packet, but there is a request for the 0-100 block of South Franklin Street. I would rather not, of course, read the name of the person, but they are requesting an autistic child sign in that block. And last time council requested a documentation from an official that does indicate the person or the child has that condition, and they did supply that. I also did not send it out for the obvious reasons. At this point, I'd recommend that council approves.
Can I just ask, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, but we have a lot of autistic children in the community. Legally, I mean, is that a thing? I've never heard of this before.
So it's more prevalent now. I think it was about a year ago. There was unfortunately an autistic child who had a habit of leaving their home and went missing for a few days and actually was found drowned in the local river. I think that was in Northampton County. It's become increasingly recommended by some medical providers for autistic children who might have as part of their their diagnosis, they have a symptom of leaving or maybe wanting to get outside space as part of their symptoms, and then they might have a habit of being more likely to be in the road. And so if that's been recommended by a healthcare provider, it is becoming more requested in light of that. And of course, the incident that happened, I think it was about a year ago, definitely brought more awareness to the need for the signage. But each autistic child has their own symptoms and their own needs. And so it's usually upon the recommendation of a medical provider.
Okay, so then we are required to provide that. Do we pay for that signage or do they pay for that signage?
The last one, the borough paid for.
Yeah, Tammy, we have that one in place on Washington Street, on West Washington Street right now.
Oh, we have one there already?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that, or I've forgotten.
And to Courtney's point, the letter that everybody got, and I'm sorry, Courtney, I didn't forward it to you, was that this person, the doctor said he is a runner because he has no concept of danger. So the additional signage helps drivers be aware of that potential danger.
If that is the case, then I would definitely recommend that we approve it. It also can reduce the likelihood that there would be an incident, which could, one of our residents could be the driver. It also reduces the the risk of, a police incident where there isn't a conflict. It also allows residents to be aware if they see a child who seems to be running around that property, to be more likely to actually call the police, and then the police can get in contact with this family to say, hey, there was a sighting. Hey, we believe your child might have been running.
I was just curious, so thank you. I had never heard of this before, and so I just was envisioning all these signs around the borough, but it's selected based on the healthcare provider, and I get that, and obviously we have to do it. I mean, so.
Yeah, it does have its benefits, especially for an instance where the child is a runner or has a habit of leaving the home as part of their symptoms. There are others who choose not to go outside as part of their symptoms. So with that, there wouldn't necessarily be a need for a sign. But here, it sounds like their symptoms indicate that it would be in the best interest of the residents and that child to have a sign, which if they moved, then the borough would be able to remove.
Chris, do we have a limit on the time for the sign to be in place? Is it like a 2-year or X number of years?
Well, the child's 3 years old, so I think it's going to be there for a while.
But we don't have anything in place that says after X number of years, or they have to reapply, or?
Nope. No, the Washington Street was the first one, and it was deemed that they would request.
I think we have for our handicap signs, don't we have a yearly review or something, Chris? Or
Yes.
2-year
Yeah,
review?
but those are considered temporary, and every year they have to renew them.
Right. Yeah, this seems to be a long-term concern, to be sure, especially if it's a child.
Yeah, my concern
then-
is that my concern would be that the person leaves the area and we have a sign there that's no longer applicable.
Well, this is Colin. I do have some personal experience with this, and it is important that we do this. The person that applied for it is a homeowner, so I would think that it would be long-term. So I would make the motion to place the signs at borough expense.
I'll second the motion.
Right, and couldn't we cross-reference, Chris, the records when people sell? Don't we have a notification when people sell in the borough?
We are, but I don't know how we would cross-reference a sign in a block to that. I don't know how we would flag that. Like 5 years from now, if they move, I don't know how we would indicate that. I'll take it as a potential action if we can assign it in one of our databases, but I don't have a high confidence in it.
Okay, well, we've got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, then let's have Doreen call the roll on that.
Okay, Suzanne Touch,
Yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer, John Rothenberger,
Yes.
and that's everyone.
So just some background. One of the reasons I was asking about that, the time frame, is that when I visit my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's house, I pass through a little town that has a deaf child sign going in both directions, coming into and out of this small little village. We've been passing that sign for over 20 years. And that's my concern, is that this hangs out there 20 years, and I know that the deaf child is no longer a deaf child at 20 years.
So Chris, you could put this on the same 2-year cycle as the handicap stickers, and just have somebody from the office reach out once every 2 years to ask if it's still appropriate, right? I mean, we don't have to vote or anything, but there's no reason we can't call once every 2 years and check to see if it's still applicable.
We can do something like that. We haven't done that on Washington Street, but we can go back on our records and start implementing it on both.
I just think that would
might be safer. Right, no harm.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate to treat it the same way as you would with the handicap sign. So if they're doing every 2 years checking in, then check in every 2 years, and if they say yes, they say yes, and move on.
Yep, got it.
Great.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, Chris. Does that take care of your business, Chris? Moving
Yeah,
on
and
to the
actually,
public
I have to
report?
step out. I have to step out just for a second, so they don't alarm the alarm system here. And then I get the police here, and then they tase me again, and it just turns out to be bad. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to the public works report.
Please do.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead, Craig.
I think we addressed the traffic light stuff during Steve's presentation. So the snowstorm, I wrote in my report how we handled things, and we're still continuing to clean up snow as fast and at the places that we feel we need to. And there's a lot more places out there. We tend to stay at it for a while. You have any other questions for me other than what was in my report or anything about the storm?
This is Jim. I just want to say thank you for doing Locust Street.
Sure. I picked the narrow streets. They were still calling for another significant storm at that time, and some of the streets like that block of East Locust, Washington, Elm, Chestnut, some of those real small streets, had we got another 6-10 inches, we would have probably not been able to get through. So that's why we removed those first, and then we're working our way out from there.
Yeah,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I want to thank the crews for being out there in that mess. They were out there for a long time. I saw flashing lights outside my house a number of times over the course of the storm and afterwards. So appreciate the time and effort that's put in.
It wasn't all pretty, but it was a long, tedious, hard storm, and we were out there a long time. We did take a couple of breaks obviously to get some rest, which was much needed, but we were fairly successful at keeping everything open for the majority of the storm. I mean, we did get a little bit behind, but by Tuesday evening at 7:30, we had everything was accessible. Like I said, some of the roads may not have been pretty, but had something happened, we could have gotten there. And I thought that was the main thing at that time, and then we would go from there.
I have to share this story because I already shared it with Craig, and I know he won't tell anybody, but I got a phone call from the mayor of Hamburg. He and a crew of his people were down here because they had heard what a good job Fleetwood does. And so they wanted to come down here and take a look. Now, this was the day the storm was just ending. And so you know how much snow there was. And they just couldn't get over how clear our streets were and that people were able to move about and cars were moving. And so he asked me what our trick was. And I said, well, it's Craig Conrad and his crew. So I believe that he's going to get together with Craig and have a discussion. I made him promise not to try to steal Craig away. But they need some help on how to handle things like this, and they're looking to Fleetwood. So I want to share that story because that's the reputation. I mean, in Hamburg, for goodness sakes, they're coming over here to see how we take care of the streets, and are asking Craig to kind of act as a consultant for them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very flattering.
Craig has been, and his team have been a great, added jewel to the Fleetwood crown. They really always meet the challenges that are presented to them, and there are many. So we're very grateful for the work that they do.
I think
Craig, you've got another hard week ahead of you, I think, Craig, unfortunately.
It looks that way, yeah. And again, as I said in my report, we couldn't do what we do without the support and the resources that you guys give us. And, I have a great crew of part-time guys coming in, which actually this past Saturday, we removed snow with 100% part-time employees on a Saturday, during the day. So that was a good thing. Again, thank you guys for the support and the resources that you do give us to allow us to do, what we can do, the best that we can. And, again, the guys always go over and above, and we got a good team. So I think we're in a good place, and we'll continue to do the best we can.
Well, thank you.
How are you set for resources, Craig? You have enough to get through salt or whatever it is you need?
Yeah, we just got 100 ton of salt today, so we're restocked, and we're in good shape. We're ready for the next one.
Okay.
I'm not.
Tammy's ready to be down south.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So then, Craig, does that wrap up your reports then?
Yeah, it does, unless anyone has any other questions about anything.
Okay. Well, then we can move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is Denton. Question for Craig.
Yes.
I see you guys are dumping snow down here on the end of Richmond and I guess it's Friendship. That's pretty close to the creek. I mean, are you sure you're okay doing that with the salt and other chemicals that might be in that snow?
I'm not aware of anybody dumping snow down there. We cleaned the sidewalks. You might see some piles from the loader cleaning the sidewalks.
The dump truck was dumping in that open area there.
Oh, I did not tell them to do that. I did not know that, so I will follow up on that. We dumped in the park, and we dumped some at the pool in the parking lot. But other than that, that's the only two places that we had been dumping.
Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking a precaution.
No, I appreciate that, and I did not tell anyone to dump there. So if they are, they shouldn't be. So I will follow up on that.
I didn't see it from this storm, but from the first storm and before Christmas and stuff, I did see it.
Yeah, okay. I'll check in on that. Like I said, we only have 2 dump sites, and that's not one of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
So, Craig, with a follow-up to that, I mean, if the snow melts, it's going to go into the storm sewers and it's going to end up in the same creek anyway, correct?
It is, but we don't want to dump that close to the stream if we don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah, their cow's just a couple hundred yards from there.
Okay, then we're going to move forward to John. I think you've got the bills.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills for February 5th.
It's Pete, I'll second it.
I've got a motion and a second to accept the February 5th bill. Do I have any further discussion? Then Doreen, if you wouldn't mind calling the roll for that, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Agreed.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer, John Rothenberger,
Yes.
and that's it.
Okay, those are, the current month's bills are approved. John, second motion?
I think I was talking on mute, wasn't I?
Yep.
I think you might have been.
Sorry. I would also like to make a motion to ratify the bills paid on January the 25th.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Do I have a second, please?
This is Ralph. I'll second it.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to ratify the January 25th bills. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, then Doreen, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Agreed.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yeah.
Colin Boyer, John Rothenberger,
Yes.
and that's everyone.
Okay, that motion carries as well. The next is to approve the January 2020 minutes that you've all received copies of in your emails. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
This is Ralph Touch. I'll make the motion.
Mark, I'll second it.
Any further discussion, anyone? If you've got no further discussion, Doreen, if you wouldn't mind calling the roll.
Okay. Suzanne Touch,
Agreed, yes.
Pete Merkel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Yes.
Ralph Touch,
Yeah.
Colin Boyer, and John Rothenberger.
Yes.
And that's everyone.
Okay, that motion carries as well. Do you want to go around the room? Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? We can start with Pete.
Wait, one more on the minutes. I didn't put it in here, but I think Doreen also sent out the minutes for the conditional hearing.
Oh, she did. I saw them in our email. So I need a motion to ratify those minutes of the conditional use hearing that we had.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
It's Pete, I'll second it.
Okay, do we have any further discussion?
I did have one question about that. Since there was a court reporter taking the minutes, do we actually have to approve the minutes for that hearing?
In my opinion, no.
Okay. If we don't need to ratify them, then we can pull that motion off the table then. We won't go to a vote on it.
So I should not include those minutes up to Borough office for filing?
If they're not official.
No, then they're not official minutes.
Okay.
When the decision is issued, that whole decision will be a record with the court reporter record.
So we'll get a cut. When that decision is entered, then we can add that decision to the minutes.
Yes, and usually as a part of the decision, the record, the court reporter's record is an exhibit that would be included. Yep.
Okay. So we're taking that. So then we don't need to include those at this point, Doreen.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. No problem. So let's go around the room to make sure that we don't have any other issues that need to be attended to. Pete, do you have anything?
I have a birthday coming up, so these Zoom meetings, I've been eating birthday cake during the Zoom meeting. I wanted to say that.
Well, I think we need to say happy birthday to Pete, everybody.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Pete.
Pete. We think you're great.
Do we need to sing?
No.
No.
I don't think we need to ever sing.
John, if you want to take the stage.
Yeah, but we know how much, Pete knows how much we feel about him, so happy birthday, Pete. Many, many more. Okay, moving around the table, how about Mr. Meals?
Nope.
How about Mr. Rothenberger?
I have nothing further, thank you.
Colin, you have anything?
Nothing for me,
No
thanks.
problem. How about, who have I missed? Tammy? We're going to go past Tammy. We'll come back to her. Maybe she's still on mute. How about Court? Anything else?
No, just nice to see you all.
Okay. And Chris, anything final?
You heard enough from me.
And it's
Chris,
Mark. I know you forget me all the time, but that's okay. I
was coming back to you. Mr. Watkins, because I was like, this doesn't add up to enough people. Hang on. So anything for you, dear?
Yeah, I do have a question. First up, I want to thank Tammy so much for sending out the email about the running for office. And as I look it over, though, I get a little bit antsy when it talks about, required number of signatures. And I really don't feel comfortable going to people's doors in the middle of the pandemic. How does that all work?
We normally would have been passing it around the table at the meetings. We can put them in the Borough Hall, and we can each come in individually and sign each other's if we so choose. So we can put that paperwork in the red drawer, Chris. Is that an option?
Absolutely.
And then if each of us goes.
That's actually not an option. I'm sorry, that is not an option.
What is not an option?
Why is that not an option, Colin? I'm sorry.
The circulator must witness in person this person signing the petition.
Okay, I could be that person.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm usually here, so I'll keep it on my desk.
Yeah, it never came up before because we're always doing it at Borough Council meetings when, of course, we were all there. So
Right.
we pushing it. But
So if we want
you're
to sign
right.
this, we should go to Chris's office and get it from him, is what I'm.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll keep them with me, and then as people come in, I'll witness their signature. I'll be their circulator, if that works.
No, that's fine. It would just have to be, you would just have to be the same party, but I think that's outside of this meeting's purpose. Yeah.
Okay. I
that'll be the plan.
didn't want to go visit neighbors. I'm been too careful so long.
We'll see if we can avoid doing that. We'll see how many signatures we come up with and then what else is necessary, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thanks. That's all I
Sure.
have.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. All right. And Chris, like I said, I talked to you about that disinfection opportunity. Maybe you can give them a call and just see if they can flesh out the idea a little bit more, because it's not really well formed with what they've provided so far.
Okay, I thought they were submitting something else. So you and I should talk.
I thought so too.
I'm not sure what you're looking for there. We'll talk later, but yeah.
Yeah, I can keep you posted, and then we can discuss it further. Maybe have them come to a meeting, but I think they need to have a more significant plan than what we've heard so far.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, then the next thing we need on the team is a motion to adjourn if everybody.
So one point, if I could keep, and I promise it's not going to be more than 2 minutes, but Pete, John, and Ralph for 2 minutes after this meeting.
Fine.
Okay.
This is Denton. Before you adjourn, I want to again put out a request for any assistance you folks can provide us. The secretary for the sewer authority, we're still searching for a secretary to take the minutes. I've struck out on all my efforts of people that I've contacted. If there's anyone that you might be aware of, any of you, that would be willing to do that. We normally will meet 6, and I think we're going to now go to 7 times a year would be our meetings, unless special events occur. And we would be willing to pay a fee for that service. But as of yet, we have not located anyone to do it. We're covered for March, but that is the end. So any suggestions, have them contact anyone on the sewer authority or even Chris. And Chris, I'm sure you wouldn't mind passing that off to us if you get a name and a number there.
Absolutely.
That's all. I thank you for your time. Hope I didn't hold you up too much this evening, but I'd really like some help on that last issue if anyone can provide that for us. Other than that, good night.
Thanks, Denton. Stay safe. Okay, if I can have that motion to adjourn then.
I'll make the motion.
And do I have a second then? That's close, but that's not a second.
John, a second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Okay, then, Doreen, if you wouldn't mind calling the roll, and then I'm going to say in advance, good night to everybody. Go ahead, Doreen.
Okay, no problem. Suzanne Touch,
Agreed.
Pete Nickel,
Yes.
Jim Meals,
Yes.
Mark Watkins,
Mark, are you on mute?
sure he's here anymore. I don't see his name.
No, I'm here. Yeah.
He's there.
I'll see your picture. Okay. Ralph Touch,
Yes.
Colin Boyer, and John
Yes.
Rothenberger.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries then. Good night, everybody, and see you at the next meeting. If anything comes up, give us a buzz.